Let's welcome our wonderful panelists up to the stage for our Industry Insights panel. Come on up, y'all. Hell yeah, this is great energy. Keep it going while they walk up here, please. Christie. Everyone, take a seat and take your free Seed&Spark hat here, everybody. And if you haven't gotten any swag, come up between the panels here. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this panel. So if you've forgotten my name is Rodgers. I'm the marketing director here at Seed&Spark, but I'm also a film director, and we are joined by these incredible people who have decided to join us here today. And so we're gonna just go down the line where everybody introduces themselves, who they are, and like what they do. So Christie, you're at the end. We'll start with you. People kind of know who you are, so we'll start with you. Yeah, we're gonna have to share the mic here. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Christie Marchese, and I'm the founder and CEO of Kinema.
Yes. Hi, I'm Nekisa Cooper. I do many things. Masterclass, built that library. I'm a producer, also board president of Chicken and Egg Pictures, amazing organization. Really happy to be here with all of you.
Yes, we are going to clap for everybody.
I'm Jermaine Johnson. I am a manager, producer, and partner at 3 Arts Entertainment.
I'm Rick Estimond. I'm the president of Formation Talent Agency, an Atlanta-based talent agency that's been here in the community over 40 years, representing actors, writers, filmmakers, digital creators, and the like. And yeah, happy to be here.
I think we all know who everybody's going to rush up to afterwards. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Bam Joyner, co-founder of the civic-minded consultancy Atlanta Influences Everything. We're known for this T-shirt, but before the T-shirt, we were a consulting brand focused on helping brands connect authentically to Atlanta culture. And where the civic piece comes in, we are pushers and consultants of the creative economy. So we want to boost the workforce and economic development by leveraging Atlanta's influence. So that's our purpose as a company.
Give it up for these wonderful panelists, everybody. So this is called the Creative Sustainability Summit, and so I would be remiss if I did not ask, like, what's kind of your role in pushing for creative sustainability within the film and television, content creation ecosystem, wherever you occupy a role? And that's not a loaded question at all, so whoever wants to take that.
I can start. So from the agency perspective, it's really about supporting the creatives that are in the system. So our agency's been doing that for 40 years, primarily representing actors. But I took over as president in 2020, and one of the things that I really wanted to establish as part of my legacy is really helping to contribute to sort of the creative economy here, helping our community to really be a part of the development conversation, and supporting filmmakers, and not just trying to pitch things to big studios, but also our independent community that's been here for a long time, making great films. And so yes, I think what we do primarily, our company actually just recently rebranded. We've been known as People Store for the vast majority of the 40 years that we were in business, but just a few months ago we rebranded as Formation, and that rebrand was really meant to reflect sort of how we're evolving to meet the needs of the industry and the clientele that's here in the industry now, and how we can really help creatives sort of bridge the gap between having a great idea and really wanting to execute something that you want to bring to a large audience, and sort of being the conduit to help that happen.
That's amazing. Jermaine, I'd like to ask you this next, but also, could you explain for the uninitiated what 3 Arts is and what it does?
Yeah, so we are a 30-year-old, we're not as old as you, but 30-ish-year-old management and production company. I would say that our core competency and the thing that is our North Star has always been representing best-in-class talent, whether it be actors, writers, or directors. What then comes along with that being kind of their creative shepherd, their guide, their business partner in reality is that we get to grow alongside them as they grow, which often translates into producing shows and movies with them, right? So we've represented, Kevin Hart since he was 18. And, Dave Becky has done an incredible job with being his business partner as he's grown to, everything that he's built with Heartbeat. Including, alongside Will Packer making Fight Night, which is on the side of Dame's hat. We've represented, Issa Rae since she was doing Awkward Black Girl and have helped her build Hooray up into what it is now, even helping her launch Via Ray and that Prosecco brand. So that is at the core of it what we do. It's I always call it creative counsel and business counsel with our clients, and the North Star is always pushing our clients to the center of the room and allowing them to take up space. Particularly for me, when it comes to my clients, it's often people that aren't used to taking up space or don't feel like they're allowed to take up space. So it's a big kind of important factor for me to push them to really take up space and kind of grow in the ways that they never thought possible.
It's beautiful. Yeah, give it up for that. I think that's an especially important message at a time where I think a lot of us in this room maybe feel like the world doesn't want us to take up space for whatever reason. So let's celebrate that, yeah. Christie, I feel like you've talked about this quite a bit, if we want to pass the mic down to you, quite a little bit during the distribution panel, but just as a refresher for maybe anybody who did not hear you talk about all of the ways in which you and Kinema contribute to the creator ecosystem.
Sure. So Kinema is a distribution platform. We support global screening tours and direct-to-audience transactional VOD rentals. The idea is we're giving you more control of your release by raising money, collecting email addresses, building an audience. And before that, I spent 10 years in the impact producing space running an organization called Picture Motion. So when we built the platform, it was built off of 10 years of running impact campaigns and global screening tours. So when I think about creative sustainability, we see it on three fronts: the filmmaker, the film, and the industry through Kinema. For the filmmaker, it's finding additional revenue streams to make through your film in a way that were not as easily readily available before. So screening tours, charging licenses for your film, having people host screenings of your event and selling tickets to it, doing influencer partnerships where they get a cut of the promotion they do for your film, all of that, bringing in revenue for you as the filmmaker. Sustainability for the film, we're kind of extending the life of that film, so helping through the distribution playbook, through some of the Substack and podcast and videos we do, kind of providing education for different ways to make money through that film and sustain that lifestyle. And then through the platform, and Emily describes it so much better than I can, even though I do this day after day, what the platform is trying to do is for every film release that comes on, we're learning what people are watching. And even as you as the filmmaker are bringing in new screening hosts and audiences for your film, we're gonna bring other filmmakers who have films on similar topics, we're gonna bring that audience to them as well. So you have the tools to show your film, collect email addresses, and you can leave and take that audience with you, because we don't want you to be platform dependent. But by using the platform, it allows other filmmakers to access that audience you built as well. So personally as a filmmaker, for your film's lifespan, and then capacity building for the industry.
That's amazing. Let's give it up for that. And we're going to trade microphones because I'm going to talk way less. So, Nekisa, how about your take on how you contribute to the idea of career sustainability through your work?
I think for me, it's mostly in support of filmmakers, whether that's direct, whether I'm producing an independent film with a filmmaker, or I'm doing what I recently did with Don Hudson, funded by the Tyler Perry Studio, is create a program called the Tyler Perry Studios Dream Collective. And it's a program for directors, emerging directors who have made at least 2 narrative short films. We will bring 100 people together. We will give them 4 weeks of online access to incredible directors and craftspeople. The next phase of that program, that 100 will become 10. Those 10 will come to the studio for 10 days of an in-person workshop where they'll get to work through their short films and get to build skills. We will identify gaps in their learning and in their craft and help them fill those gaps. We'll put some of those scenes on their feet with great craftspeople from the below-the-line community, actors, et cetera. And then those 10 will become 5, and we'll give $30,000 to each of those 5 to make their short films and access to all of the studio's resources. So for me, this is about trying to figure out a myriad of ways to support filmmakers. building programs like that, hiring people through places like Masterclass, and working with individual filmmakers to figure out what your own sustainability plan looks like. It's different for everyone. We all come to this with so many different types of skills. I found as a producer, I've had to diversify the form. You know, I've worked in commercials, I've been a line producer, I've made iPad applications, I've made short films. I found over the years that it's been important to just look at your skill set and be open and flexible around where you're going to sustain yourself creatively and financially. That helps.
Yes, give it up for that. Especially putting money back into the community to emerging filmmakers who need that. I cannot tell you how invaluable that is as an independent filmmaker, so thank you. Baim, you know, I think this question also kind of dovetails into the question that we had for you, which is talking about, you know, Atlanta, specifically your role in the ecosystem, but also, you know, how the creative ecosystem is here in Atlanta, and what Atlanta Influences Everything is doing to help support that. I know that you and Emily have a lot of conversations about this as, you know, two fellow Atlanteans, so I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Well, Emily, I got to do you justice. Emily moved here not too long, so but she's an ATLian now. She would want me to be honest about that in our talks. So, and I'm saying that because so I'm the only one in my company from Atlanta, from the West End. I'm a product of the Atlanta public school system. So. The era of Atlanta I come from, kind of like, I was in 11th grade when the Olympics came, and I'm the same age as Crisscross, so like when they made Jump Jump, they were at a rival middle school, and that before then, it looked like music and was only on, like coming from New York and LA, and this was just music, and this is perfect timing of a question because of the statement, the South's got something to say, and then years later, you know, the news that just broke about Outkast being inducted into the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But in that time span, Atlanta has grown so much where movies and these type of creative careers in LA and New York, for my age group, they were always a thing. I don't know if the pathway was always clear, but the career space was happening around LA and New York, and the music industries, there's still no infrastructure like this for music. Even as dominant as Atlanta is, it's not like Nashville here, where you have Music Row and you have a lot of government infrastructure. The dope part about it is our government and public sector, they're fans of music, so they sit out here like this and they support what's happening up here. But what our infrastructure doesn't understand is the need to try to attract more Emily's and Seed&Sparks here to help us with our infrastructure. You know, we country here, yo. Like I ain't ashamed of that. We come from agriculture, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I come to find out, like our studio deal, and I'll end here, like, as the film tax is happening, the natives, we're excited because it's like, yo, the public sector infrastructure finally realizes that there's some of us in the classroom that aren't, I'm not gonna be a doctor, I'm a lawyer. Like I want to be the next Martin Scorsese or Issa Rae or Ryan Coogler, like, but the deal, come to find out, it wasn't done for that. Again, we country, so we got a lot of land. So the film tax, first and foremost, was done as a real estate deal and kind of like a tax thing, but it didn't even have the creative built in mind. So the government wasn't thinking about, hey, how can we uplift our creatives with this film tax? Now, in hindsight, the place that's number one in income inequality, which is Atlanta. Atlanta also has a 4% upward mobility rate. So if you're born poor in Atlanta, 96% chance you'll die poor. Like, how do you leverage the influence, which we are brand guys, so the influence is the silhouette of Dr. King. Like, you could take that to LA, take that to New York, take that to Paris. That's our guy, right? So Civil rights, boom, we influenced all y'all on that, bet. Coca-Cola logo, right? Anywhere in the world, you might not even speak no English, but you know that symbol right there, that Coca-Cola, bet. And then the group that just got inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you put those three things together, civic, corporate commerce, and culture, there should be a way, if you influence those things like an influencer, you have figured out how to leverage that for yourself. And what we want to help is help everyone else on this stage, as well as Chris Escobar and the Film Festival. How do you turn this influence into workforce and economic development? Like, how do you leverage that? So, yeah.
I mean, what an answer. Knocked it out of the park. Christie and Nekisa, I want to ask you, and we've talked a lot about distribution today, particularly you, Christie, but you know, it's a really challenging time to connect a film, a series, something that's made independently writ large with an audience. And as we learned today earlier, there is no self-distribution versus distribution you get. It is all active distribution. And so I wanted to ask the two of you, what have you seen as successful strategies within the distribution space to help connect a work of art, entertainment, what have you, with those audiences?
I could go into a few different examples, but I think there are some kind of core principles that each of these have had. And one, some basic things like the entrepreneurial filmmaker. The filmmaker is really seeing as running this film release, as a business. They're very clear about their goals. They're defining their audience. All the stuff that we kind of went through earlier, and you'll find in the distribution playbook. But more than anything, it's either been filmmakers coming from outside the industry or refusing to take in what they were told about the industry. They're kind of coming up with their own playbook. They're not trying to play by the rules of the rules of the traditional industry. So when they look at, why did I make this film? Who did I make it for? And where are they? And how do they watch? They build a strategy for that. And that's been really successful because they're meeting their goals with their impact, or they're making money. There's Hundreds of Beavers is a good example. You, Me, and Her just came out. The To Die For, the documentary I talked about earlier. All of them are kind of either coming from outside the industry or set their own playbook, and they're finding success in both revenue and in impact. That's my short answer.
Yeah, to build on that, I think it's beginning with the end in mind, thinking about the fact that while you're fundraising for your film, you might also think about distribution and the multiple options that are potentially in front of you, and one of them might be self-distribution, and that's not a dirty word. It can be really empowering to know your audience, to understand why you for this film now, and be able to communicate that and connect with people now that there are platforms like Kinema around. Really the agency is back in the filmmakers' hands in many ways. And so I would encourage everyone to think about self-distribution as the first option. Those that get to go to the big festivals and get the big sale, those are few and far between, and even more so now. So beginning with the end in mind and making sure that you're partnering with people that are able to support you, and you're looking at all of these amazing case studies, I think those things are the important things. And that question that Christie asked in her way, my way is why you for this story now. Be really clear about that and be able to communicate that to folks. And I think that will help you connect with people.
Great answers. Rick and Jermaine, this kind of dovetails into the questions that we had for you, which is, you represent talent. You represent, people like the folks in this audience here. So what strategies have you seen from that perspective, from representing talent that you've seen work well for your clients, or also what hasn't worked well? Because we can learn just as much from what not to do as what example to follow.
I will start with what hasn't worked well. Creating with a singular place in mind that you want to launch, right? So people say, oh, I think this would be a great Netflix show, or I think this would be a great Apple show. And I promise you that Netflix and Apple don't know a great show until it lands on their doorstep. Like, they have no idea what it is until the creator comes with a singular vision of why me, why now, why this. So I think that's something that I try to remind people as much as possible. Let the creative drive you, and then kind of figure out what your strategy in terms of where you'd ideally like to be once you've coalesced around what your story is and why you're telling it. For what has worked, especially in this moment in time, and I think, it really does take, an entrepreneurial spirit more than ever. And I think I got into the business in '08. We were in the middle of a recession. We were fresh off a writer's strike. It didn't look dissimilar to where we're at now in terms of some of the fear and worry around a contraction of the business. And to me, I think that's when entrepreneurs thrive. I think that's when we actually got Abby and Alana, who made Broad City. That's when Issa Rae was making Awkward Black Girl that ended up turning into Insecure. So I think having that entrepreneurial spirit really, really does go a long way in the times where the business is contracting. And it's one of my favorite things about being here, quite frankly, is that Atlanta is a very entrepreneurial city. And I think there's an inflection point right now, even to Bame's point about how the tax credit was kind of built, and I the nicest way I can say it is to launder money through Atlanta. Is because granted, that's what the larger studios were doing, right? They come here, they eat off the tax incentive, and they take all that money and they take it out of the state. So to me, I think what's really interesting now in this entrepreneurial moment for creators is that think about the stories you want to tell about your city in a meaningful way, right? Like we've got 1,000,001 shows and movies that show LA and New York and have, it's a big commercial for those cities. And there's no reason that shows, like Fight Night's a good example, Atlanta was a good example, but there should be 1,000,000 more shows that show every corner of Atlanta and tell every story that we've been trying to tell.
Give it up.
From my vantage point, running an agency here, I've been in the system here for 16 years, and it's been really fascinating to really kind of see the way that Atlanta is evolving as a filmmaking hub. And so, I think that what I've noticed working, and one of the things that I've seen that's been my favorite thing to kind of see evolve, is the way that digital creators are really sort of starting to kind of make a name for themselves here in the marketplace here, and not really waiting to kind of have things sort of given to them out of the old system. And I think that, I read a lot of articles now and see reels on Instagram every day that seem to indicate that like Hollywood is dying. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that Hollywood is being forced to evolve. And I think there's a rare and unique opportunity, particularly for the creatives here in Atlanta. Like we said, in the music industry, somebody had to stand up and say the South got something to say. And I think that opportunity is available here in Atlanta. And I've seen that in some unique and interesting ways. We used to represent this client, Country Wayne. And I'm sure some of y'all are probably familiar with him. And he's been sort of like a learning experience for me, because we represented him before he started putting these skits on Facebook. And he's somebody that I saw a long time ago, who I thought was really interesting and funny. And we tried to kind of fit him into the pre-existing system. And he didn't fit the system, And eventually we stopped working with him. And next thing I know, a couple of years into the future, I see these skits on Facebook. And they're getting thousands and thousands of views, and hundreds of thousands of views, and millions of views. And he's built an empire now, And it's been really, really cool to also see the way that he's been able to leverage community. I feel like every time I turn one of them things on, I see somebody I know. Probably half of y'all in here are in these skits. But it's been really cool how he's taking advantage of sort of the things that are available here, and it doesn't cost him anything. It's super low budget, but he's been able to really sort of build his own sort of like production entity, and it's really cool to see something like that happen here. And I think that Atlanta can really be sort of a shining example of where sort of this new indie filmmaking, digital creating renaissance can really sort of take off from.
Yes, that's a fantastic answer. I love how generous and kind this crowd is. That's amazing.
I just want to tap into something that Rick said that I think is so important just to underline. Community. right? Like, I think that's a massive thing that will always work no matter what the climate is. And it's like, so there's always this idea of like, how can I get my thing made? But also look to your left, look to your right. How can I help you get your thing made? Like, that will go a long way to building like a real creative community and an ecosystem that becomes foundational to the story that's being told here. So I think I'm glad you brought it up, Rick. That's a massive word.
Yeah, I mean, let's jump off of that though. And everybody get ready to open this up for the Q&A. Get your questions ready. There's going to be a mic that's going to come down into the audience. And you'll be able to ask any and all questions that you have here. But I want to talk about community for just a second. We hear the word community all the time. It's a big buzzword, you know, in the same way that a lot of words that once meant something become like industry jargon, right? I want to talk about community though and like what that actually means. How do you build community? I got my own personal answer, but I want to know, what does it look like to build a community in here in Atlanta, but also in the Southeast in general? And how do you create that kind of, you know, that network, that system that we're all talking about here today? That's for anybody.
I'll start by saying the first question I always ask anybody is, how can I help? And if you can start there, you start to really build people that you can trust and rely on. And I like to be a fan of my friends. I like to, you know, help them build whatever they're building and really see it take off and say, I'm glad I just had a 5%, you know, part of helping in that.
Yeah. Being the person that shows up, like all of you have done here today, that matters. This is the first step. Maybe this is the first film thing you've ever gone to. This is the first step for you in that journey of asking, how can I help?
So I'm not from Atlanta. I'm sorry. I live in New York. Sorry. But I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of this panel and a part of this community this weekend. And just today, it has already felt a bit like a community to how everybody interacts and is so warm and welcoming. So thank you, Emily, for inviting me and having me here. And Emily is a part of my community. So I think as I've learned over the years of running the second company, you need that community to get through it. And we started having, every other week, we'd have like a co-therapy call. We would just get on and talk about fundraising or running a company or the industry. And that two-person community got me through so much. And it's really created, from that, we've built 2 different partnerships. We're going deeper into business together. So I think like it can take different forms. And in New York, I have different text groups and communities I'm a part of that are just, again, co-therapy groups. And then the one last thing about help, which is so true, someone did this exercise recently where they asked everyone in the room, I won't ask you to do it, but they said, raise your hand if you love to give help, and then raise your hand if you like to ask for help. And there's a huge disparity. We're all like afraid to ask for help, but we all want to give help in different ways. So the more that you can offer that, the easier it'll be to receive it. Sorry, I'm sweaty.
That
I
part,
love that.
That's amazing. Be willing to ask for help. Wow. That vulnerability, that's important. It's important, right? It's hard, but it's important. Be willing to ask, and then also be willing to give. I mean, really, truly give. You know, I just wrapped a short film yesterday that I was producing for an emerging writer-director. I have not made a short film in probably 15 years, and I have not made any films in Atlanta. So it took quite some time to figure out how to crew up and make sure there were great people, not just great at their craft, but also with great spirits, right? That were coming to, you know, make this collective, amazing piece of art together. And I gotta say, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with what Atlanta has to offer. It definitely took many phone calls, but it was dipping into my network and saying, hey, do you know someone that does this? If you don't know someone, maybe you can point me in the direction of someone else who might know, and just being willing. And I have a 7-year-old niece who, when she's getting ready for bed, she goes to everyone in the house, can you get me ready? And if they're busy, she goes to the next person, can you get me ready? If they're busy, no sweat, she goes to the next person. And you just have to be fearless and courageous in that regard. So fearless, courageous, ask for help, be willing to give, some basic things.
May we all have the audacity of a 7-year-old. Any other thoughts before we open it up to audience questions?
Well, one, I think at times in Atlanta, because we draw this line in the sand at times of like who's from here, who's not, who can. I think people try to lean in at times and find community, but sometimes the native makes it hard. And you know, we got a shirt that says "We full," so like we already trying to like. But the reality of it is the communication that's taking place now of that Atlanta is probably the best execution of a yes and city, of how yes and I'm not for sure about LA and New York being yes and, you know, it kind of just is what it is. And, you know, you don't like it, you can get the hell on, you know. But I feel like Atlanta is a yes and. I feel like more than these other great American cities where a lot of the content has come from in the past, that way is the way. And Atlanta has a lot more fertile soil and wet concrete than other American cities. And I think the native needs to understand that the fertile soil and wet concrete is being, has been identified, so people are coming. And that the calendar of Atlanta continues to show that people are coming with World Cup 26, Super Bowl in 28. So I think as someone who moves here, it's just like get to know the people, but pay attention to the calendar, and hopefully if I'm saying Atlanta influences everything, then yeah, obviously I think it's a sexy city, right? But like a new iPhone or like something that you've ordered that you want to unbox in that whole like unboxing sexy way of unboxing. Atlanta is sexy like that, but like a device, like let's say you miss about 3 updates on your new iPhone and how it starts acting. So Atlanta needs to understand that people are attracted to us, and from an internal standpoint, let us update our processes like an iOS. Like we about 3 iOS updates behind from a local level. And if we can update that to better receive this energy that is coming in, you know, I believe we'll be okay. And the last thing I want to say, that calendar, that World Cup 26, man, get out here and shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's open. And for those that are going back and forth to Atlanta and LA, both places have the World Cup. Like, what stories can you tell? What can you shoot? And what you have is an opportunity where there's no guidebook. Just get out here and create. And the last thing I'll drop, Atlanta, the mayor's office of Atlanta is going to South Africa September 1st through September 6th. There's this thing, if you Google Fame Week, South Africa, and Fame, acronym, film, art, music, entertainment. And the city of Atlanta is responsible, it's like a South by Southwest, but in Cape Town. And so the city of Atlanta is responsible for partnering with South Africa to create panels and workshops, sort of like the film festival out there. And so it's Fame Week, South Africa. The details are still coming together, but what I know is it's open. You know, like you can't wait on the mayor's office. No disrespect to them. They don't want you to wait on them, no way. You know what I'm saying? But Fame Week, South Africa, and if you Google, there are more details there, but it's wide open for all of us to go.
Hell yeah. Let's give it up for that. Fame, I love the way that you talk. I love your metaphors. I want you to talk all day, every day. Just get inside your brain. Okay, we are open to questions. So I think we passed the mic to our first question right here.
Hello. My first question for you is, when you're creating sustainability or support for this industry, how are you bridging the gap for the pros and the beginners? Because there's so much that goes on between those two spectrums. What are some of the things that you're using to bridge those gaps?
I think for us, it's really sort of connecting people to resources. You know, there's so many things that you have available here that, you know, help you sort of climb the ladder from sort of being a novice to really being an expert at the craft. I love that somebody from Masterclass is here, because I feel like y'all owe me money for like how much I market the product, because I'm like, why, like Masterclass should cost $1 zillion, because, you know, you can go on there and learn how to Steph Curry from Steph Curry, learn how to Issa from Issa. And those are things that weren't available to us before. And, you know, and not even just on Masterclass, but, you know, on YouTube, there's just so many resources that we have to really kind of learn how to do things. So, you know, from our standpoint, it's really about making sure that people get those at-bats. and making sure that they're getting as many opportunities as they can to grow, to learn the lessons, to we try the best that we can to make sure that that you don't make the catastrophic mistake, but you make the mistake that helps you to develop as a filmmaker, as a creative, and along the way, you turn into something special. But yeah, that's really about what we do from the agency standpoint.
I'll add, sorry if I sound like a broken record on this, but we've been doing these like YouTube videos and podcasts interviewing people in the industry. And last week we interviewed Elise Oxendine. She used to teach at Columbia University in the filmmaking school, specifically about breaking into the industry. And she's left, and she's now running a new film organization called Film Durham out of Durham, North Carolina. And I asked her this exactly, like how do new filmmakers kind of break into this? Because a lot of what we talk about is where people have done this before. And her biggest piece of advice was actually keep it local. Like get into your local film community, like what everyone's been saying here. Like be a part of your local film foundations, go join your local cinema, build community locally, and from that you'll start to get into productions, learn from other people, and it was truly her biggest piece of advice.
I have a little bit of insight there that I think could be also helpful. Number one, I'll talk about Seed&Spark. Seed&Spark, we have a lot of creator rewards, including a partnership with Kinema, so that you can go from being a beginner filmmaker to having a distribution model for your film, regardless of what it is, to utilize the partnerships that Seed&Spark has kind of created so that you are able to kind of level up your production as you are going along and accumulating these like creator rewards. But also Nekisa talked about this Tyler Perry program. For anybody who's eligible for these fellowships and residencies or grants or anything like that, that is a great way to get credibility for your work as a filmmaker as you are leveling up. And so apply to that program, apply to the Transgender Film Center's programs. We're giving out $200,000 this year through the Transgender Film Center, and it's all free to apply to. And by practicing how to write fellowship applications, grant applications, and putting yourself out there, you're practicing the things that were taught earlier in the day through the Crowdfunding to Build Independence workshop, where you are practicing how to invite people in to be part of your project, presenting it as an opportunity, and learning how to be persuasive while you talk about yourself. That is a skill that will benefit you in every single room you ever go into. And so these are things that are immediately available to you that actually don't cost anything. That's my 2 cents on that. Thanks. All right, we have another question. Hello.
Hello, it's me. Hi, I'm Karen Cisse. I am a local actor.
Hi, Karen.
Hi there. Hey, Rick. Local actor, writer, producer. And I'm originally from Philadelphia, but I'm a process peach because I've put in about a good 30 years into this industry here, right? I currently sit on the SAG-AFTRA board, Film Impact Georgia board, past Women in Film and everything. And now I've seen the industry change as far as where we just had Home Depot videos, UPS, videos and things like that, to what we had, about 2 years ago. I also am a mother to a film student who is 20 years old, looking at things, and had a film that premiered in Bronzelands last year. What will it take for LA not to be an issue, for Hollywood to be irrelevant to what we do here? What do we need to do we're just doing what we do here in Atlanta. We welcome you. If you come here and want to be a part of our community, we welcome you. But what does it take for us not to be Yollywood or Hollywood of the South? Or we are Atlanta, we've got something to say. What will it take for that?
I would say, keep saying it, right? If you've got something to say, keep saying it. I think I would challenge the notion of wanting to make LA or New York, any other city, irrelevant, right? I think I think community grows, right? And I think it actually needs to all be a part of a larger community. I think if it wasn't for Atlanta and New York and to some extent Austin and New Mexico and some of the stuff that happens in Canada, LA would be irrelevant without those cities, right? So I think the idea is really being intentional about cultivating and keeping the voices here that come from here, right? One of my biggest issues is the fact that, Donald Glover, the Ebo sisters, all of these people thought they had to leave Atlanta in order to make it. And I think a lot of us on this panel are very intentional about like how do we make sure that we're creating infrastructure in this city so that when the next great creator, which could very well be in this room, decides they have a great script or a film or a play even, that they have the resources here to make it and own it and distribute it out of this city. And I think that's the thing that will create Atlanta as a destination and not just a pass-through hub that film tax credit created.
Yo, so the Donald Glover thing hurt because I'm a marketing and branding person, and the rollout of the Atlanta show, a lot of the experiential marketing, and it was all in LA, which is cool. Again, I'm trying to sell the yes and thing, but we don't really see him like that in Atlanta. And Atlanta's small, like, so what's a celebrity to everybody else ain't necessarily a celebrity to us per se, because you can see these people walking around town regular, you know, no bodyguard, like just you know, out here. And so because we don't see Donald or his brother, the show, it landed on us, and it was for those that get out of their neighborhood, that show was very much a real Atlanta caper, if you understand Atlanta. And the awards he was winning, but because he went to DeKalb School of the Arts, actually with Stacey Abrams, not while they weren't there together, but they both went to the DeKalb School of the Arts. And the fact that no one knows that, you know, Donald Glover went to DeKalb School of the Arts, same school as Stacey Abrams. So it's more of our internal storytelling. And what I'm learning from an Atlanta standpoint, you know, as much as I like, you know, say I'm a native and like a relationship take too, I feel like we all grown in here. We done had to have been in some relationships or like by now, and you've learned like, there's a natural like, oh, yo, you cute, like I'm rocking with you. And then there's like how the relationship sustains itself. And a sustainable relationship comes from communication of both parties on how they like to be loved. In Atlanta, we're very reactionary. We haven't necessarily been proactive. And we need to communicate from an Atlanta standpoint about who we are in this relationship. I think people are down with who we are. Like we need to kind of stand more 10 toes down about our role in the relationship. And that's when we do 404 Day, we try to like use 404 Day to help with that type of communication. But it's a communication narrative that we are the best possibility of yes and, which is why Delta send those flights back and forth to LA. It's so easy to get to New York and LA from Hartsfield Jackson because they are trying to show the yes and. We're not trying to cut off LA and New York. We trying to go back and forth. And as a native, we got to hold ourselves more accountable, and I work on that a lot. It's tough. I'm right with you, Karen. But yeah, it's the yes and we just need to tell Atlanta stories better and more. But there's more opportunity to tell our stories. So yeah.
Great answers. Yeah, give it up, give it up. I think based off of all of the wonderful insights that we have from this panel, we have time for one more audience question. Just one more.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Seed&Spark. Thank you, Emily. This is great. A lot of quality information. My name is Washington Kirk. I'm a writer, director, performer. My first question is for Christie. I don't know if you remember Christie, but we had a conversation last October.
I could barely see it. I was like, yes, I think I know you. Hey.
Thank you again for taking the time. You got a big time job, very busy. At the time, you said that the platform Kinema was not quite ready for narrative series. Lo and behold, was it like 6 months later, you're partnering with the Duplass brothers to roll out The Long, Long Night. I got a digital series, just got through post with it. Is this a sort of a one and done thing? Are you looking for projects to sort
Yes.
of beta test the?
Yes, yes and no. Good to see you again.
Hey.
So yes, we expedited the production timeline on this because of the release opportunity. So which was
Sure.
again brought to us by Emily. So we were eventually going to add series, but it was going to be really down the line. But because Mark offered to talk about this while he was promoting other shows he was on, it was an opportunity, a really generous opportunity. So it's actually still almost barely live. It goes live like in 10 minutes. So like literally, we released an early version for Seed&Spark supporters, and then series will officially be available today, and we'll announce it formally tomorrow. And we are still, it's in beta testing, so we have this one, there's 2 more coming on right after, and we have a list that we're kind of bringing on one at a time. So yes, let's talk about your series, because I would love to.
Cool, thank you so much, and good luck with the raise. Second question, just general, no? I'll let somebody else go. I'll let somebody else.
I love it, Barbara Strict.
Don't worry, we're all available after the show. All right, last one here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I have a question for the panel. As someone who is not in the film industry, but exploring and considering a concept idea for a documentary, what would be the best approach to kind of vet the idea before going too deep down and someone saying this is really not a good project? Like, we believe in it, we think it's great, but like an honest opinion on it. And then also finding like a mentor that we can learn from so we don't make some mistakes that probably a lot of new film people might be making.
I mean, and I'm not very much in the doc space. I'm making one doc that might have the FBI show up at my house one day. But I think that's kind of part of my answer, right? That doc was something that, like, even the idea of it was keeping me awake at night, right? I work with Malcolm X's daughter, and it is around her lawsuit against the NYPD and the federal government and the death of her father. And I, had to sit with it and say, well, I'd never forgive myself if I didn't at least try to figure this out. So that's probably a big part of what, if you have an idea that you just can't shake it, and you keep digging and digging and digging, and you feel truly that there's a story there, I would run with that feeling and then start to socialize it with people that you trust that are in the business, right? Whether it be, any of us on this panel or any of these people in this crowd, right? When I say, hey, look to your left and look to your right, I think these people will help you stress test those ideas. The second part to the answer is, man, I'm making a lot of mistakes making this doc. and I'm learning. I think that's the thing. You're always going to keep learning. I've been doing this for 15 years. This is my first doc. It is very important to me, and I think to a lot of people, and I am not afraid. Rick and I were just talking about this before the panel. I'm not afraid to say I don't know, but I can go find an answer. And that is something that I continue to do throughout my whole career. So there's a level to which you kind of have to commit to making the mistakes. You're going to find people that are in your orbit that have made docs. Maybe they've made 1, maybe they've made 10. Ask them a million questions, right? Be vulnerable. Like, check your ego at the door and just say, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can I buy you coffee or lunch, right? But also be comfortable making mistakes. And that's part of learning and like cutting your teeth as a creator, because nobody makes a perfect doc, a movie, a perfect TV show. It doesn't exist. Everybody goes back and looks at it and says, oh, I should have done that better. I wish I would have known this. But it's all part of the process.
Great answer.
I want to add
please.
to that just a little bit. I just want to affirm that you're already doing the right things. You're asking those questions, and you're talking about building community. Someone who, again, Chicken and Egg Films is potentially a resource for you. There's a research and development grant that gives you an opportunity to apply for a little bit of funding that'll allow you to go out and maybe do some pre-interviewing, to do some shooting. Fail small to win big is the idea, right? So you're gonna pilot and test some things out, and then again, within your community, look for feedback. Be open to that feedback. Use that as a tool to continue to build your plan, but you're already doing the right things. You're on the right path.
100%. And as somebody who spent the last 10 years in the doc space, 1, you're already doing the right thing by showing up here today. 2, show up to other documentary filmmakers' screenings. They are ridiculously approachable most of the time. Showing up to a documentary screening, you're already ahead of the pack. Lastly, mentorship can come from anywhere. anybody who even just like answers a question, that is a form of showing up for somebody in mentorship. So if you're just like really earnest and honest and just straightforward about the things that you're seeking, you might be surprised with the resources that you find. And again, you might find a lot of it here in this room, like you have already. So thank you for the question, and we're gonna end right there. Let's give it, oh, Emily, do you wanna say something quick?
I'm sneaking in here to do one thing for you that I've done at all my community events, and this panel reminded me, and then I was like, oh my God, I didn't tell Stab, so now I have to just come like interrupt the end of your panel. I know that all of you are gonna wanna get FaceTime with these folks, and I appreciate that. But don't let this opportunity turn you back into the pick-me that we're trying to deprogram, right? Okay, so hear me out here. A lot of them have talked about it's the person to your right and to your left. So I want to challenge you to do something before you leave here today. Y'all have name tags on, so you can call each other by your names. I want you to offer help to someone in this room, and I want you to ask for something from someone in this room, but it cannot be a one-to-one exchange. You hear me? So don't make a transaction. I want you to experience what it's like to believe that the community will take care. If you are asking and you are offering in equal measure, even if it's not to the same person, the community will take care. So I want to challenge yourself. Introduce yourself to somebody you do not already know. Find out a little bit about them. See what you might offer. See how they might help, okay? And not all interactions are gonna go perfectly, but it'll take you a little bit to find it out. But I just want you to do that so we can start to build the muscle as a community that we are all going to take care of each other even more so than we already are. That's my one prompt.
Well, I don't know how we're gonna follow that up. That's a beautiful way to end this panel here today. Let's please give it up for our esteemed panelists. And now, I am going to urge all of you to accept Emily's challenge, talk to each other, feel free to talk to us, take a bathroom break. We'll be right back with our last panel of the day.